All right, I believe we're ready to begin. Welcome tonight, to our, audit, pardon me, I need to move to the next one. To our special call budget workshop meeting. So at this time, I'd like to call to order our meeting. Reverend Brown, would you be willing to give an invocation for tonight's meeting? Thank you, Reverend Brown.
Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for those who are here assembled. And we ask that you pour wisdom into each of us, Father, so that as we are being taught and going over our budget materials and everything on this agenda, you will give us the insight to grasp and to ask the proper questions, Father, to help us to be a better board at understanding the budget as we oversee thousands of dollars in our school district. Bless our superintendent, bless the assistant superintendent, bless all of the staff and everyone here assembled, Father, and we'll always give you the praise. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Reverend Brown. Ms. Giles, I assume that everybody was notified in a timely manner. Thank you, Ms. Giles. Welcome everybody. It's a good thing that we have a quorum, so we'll move forward to the approval of the agenda. That agenda sits in front of you. You will also see that the agenda has added some requests by Dr. Bethay for personnel and field trip. Instead of waiting to the May meeting, we felt like this was appropriate to put it on the agenda, and it will not really take that much time. So with the information provided in front of you for agenda, do we have a motion?
I motion.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Foxworth to accept the agenda for Thursday, April 27th, 2023. Do we have a second? Mr. Dozier has offered a second, so we have a motion is properly second. Any discussion before we move forward to a vote?
Chair, I have a point of order.
Yes, ma'am.
A few months back, we voted to have a protocol established for going over the agenda with Dr. Bethay. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And at the last meeting, the protocol was not followed. You were supposed to ask one of the other board members the protocol specifically said who the person was, should not be or should be. So if there needed to be discussion about, yeah, it said it should be, what was the motion? It was the chair and another board member.
Correct.
Specifically.
So we had another board member.
It was not the vice chair.
But that's another board member.
No, that it was very specific. It was very specific, Mrs. Atkinson, and your feelings about it was very clear. So what I'm asking, because I don't want to go back and forth, but I do want us to be respectful, because it wasn't my idea, but I do believe that our protocol should be followed because we have a responsibility for approving up and down on salaries, on jobs, and those kinds of things. We don't want to be in a position where we breach our own protocols. So if there was something else that needed to be discussed, then we should discuss that. But that was something that was specifically said, unless someone can tell me something different. Did I misunderstand what we voted on?
That's what was said.
With that vote, I thought that we was gonna go back through because we didn't make it official. I'm not sure, maybe I was wrong.
No, it was official.
I have it in front of me.
It was official. It was official, but where he wanted to put it was the issue.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So here's what this is what was passed. Whenever the chair and or vice chair, being that the chair is not available, meets with the superintendent, another board member must be present.
Right.
Along with the secretary of the board, who shall record the minutes of such a meeting and make the minutes available to the other board members in executive session.
Right.
So it does not state that the vice chair cannot be one of the board members.
What was the intent of that, Ms. Reverend Brown?
It was stated that the vice
It
chair should not
was.
be one of the two.
You could be one or the other. It
Right.
shouldn't have been and. So, I mean, like I said, I don't want to belabor it because obviously,
Well, I want to make sure.
right, it
that
was
there's
not to be
clarity.
and. It was not to be and. It was supposed to be or.
Is it in the meeting?
It's happened. We'll need clarity. It might be that this needs to be brought back to the board. It takes somebody that voted yes for this amendment or addition. All they have to do is say that they want to bring it back up to the board for full discussion or for revoking what was brought forward. So we have the ability to bring this back up, not tonight, but we have the ability to bring it back up for discussion again by a board member that voted for it last time. And they can vote to bring clarity to what was written, or they can vote to revoke it.
And,
So-
and the protocol about why not tonight would be what?
Because it's not on our agenda.
Right, that's what the point of motion is for.
Yes.
Because it was improperly done last time and we weren't told until it was too late. So now that we're on the protocols of the agenda, it's absolutely appropriate for us to go ahead and make the motion now so we can be done with this and go on to the budget. I don't know who did it, but I mean, and like I said, my passion has nothing to do with the motion itself. It's about the fact that I take very seriously the fact that we do protocols and we make these responsible decisions about people and their jobs.
Well,
So people watch us.
I feel like that because we don't have a copy of what was presented, then we can't correct. I'm giving you the exact policy that was read. We don't have a printed copy of that policy.
Madam Chair, the secretary, did she send out the revised? Because I remember Ms. White said, I had a little slanted line, remember Ms. Wright, and you said it should be or.
Mhm.
Do you remember that? You said-
Someone said it. I wasn't, it wasn't, I don't think it was me, but someone said or. I know or was said. I don't recall and.
It was,
I don't
and
think,
And was
think-
not, and was not
I
said.
think that we had seen that if I
That
had
if
to
you-
step in her place, I couldn't be the second person to be there.
Right.
Right.
because you were taking my place.
Only if she was just what she just said.
Right.
If she was taking your place, then of course. But if you were there, she wasn't supposed to be that second person.
So here, what was presented had a slash. It did not have and or, it has a slash.
Mhm.
I brought up the discussion of and or. Do we want and or? And I put down in my notes that it was and/or. When you finish reading the document, it says that one of the two is going to be there. It doesn't say when the two are there, another board member can't be there.
Was there another board member there?
No,
Okay, then that's what I'm saying. And I don't want to belabor it because what's important is the budget, but the other part that's important is that we're in decency and order.
Right,
Okay.
right, of course.
So,
well,
you know.
can we have a motion somebody needs to bring a motion whether to move this to the next meeting or whether to go ahead and make clarity to this tonight. But the motion has stand and we need to see an official copy from the minutes. So I don't have the minutes with me from last week for us to respond to. We can, I mean,
I'm lost out.
if we're,
Hmm?
you're bringing forth something that is a point of order, I understand that. But we don't have a copy of the changed, it's coming up in the next meeting. What was changed in the attorney was to put it into the language that was appropriate. So we left him with that request to do that.
Okay,
So my suggestion is, instead of doing that tonight, let's do it to the clarity so that there is understanding, because obviously what we wrote does not provide the understanding needed, because how you are understanding it and how I am understanding it are two different things. So the wording is not presenting to us full clarity as to how to handle a meeting with Dr. Bethea as it relates to the creating of the agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
my understanding, and I mean, I'm not gonna go on and on with it either, but I thought it was like you two won't be the one, the chair and the vice chair won't be the ones that meet with Dr. Bethea every meeting. One of you will and another board member. Is that correct?
So that's not my understanding.
that's what we said.
we
I mean,
voted
if
on.
someone else felt that, if someone understood with what you said, what the chair said, Madam Chair said, it's important to say that, so we'll know that it's clear.
Yeah,
So
I
if
think-
somebody else felt, thought it was gonna be both of them, it's important to say that at this point.
Yeah, it
I'm
just,
gonna speak for me. Like, I know that I was not supposed to be the one included all the time.
Mhm.
That It's just supposed to be a board member. If she's not there, then I can go.
But
So
she
what
has
Miss
to
Susan
be.
just
I'm glad
said,
for that.
then
Well,
I
that's,
have
that's
to
the
go.
impression I got too. That's, yeah.
Right, and so
Yeah,
that's
that's
what,
the impression I got. that
Yeah,
if
So
you
we
were
all
there,
got
she's
that
gonna-
same impression, Madam
I'm
Chair.
there. It
Uh-huh.
doesn't matter which of these 6 board members
Okay.
come into that meeting.
A
You-
vice chair, not the vice
So-
chair. It
so-
was very
so-
specific.
So
Madam Chair, see, this is exactly what I was
that's
speaking to.
exactly it. There's no clarity.
It's not clarity.
Yeah, there's no
It's
clarity.
refusal. It's refusal, because you were very clear that you didn't like it. And now you're asking the question, why? Why? It was, we had a clear discussion about that then. I didn't have a why. I voted. It wasn't my motion. It wasn't my second. I just voted. But the whole point is, you know, when we don't win what our thoughts are, when our thoughts aren't, supported by the majority, it's important that we understand and respect who the majority
Exactly.
was.
I would like to be respected.
And I know I want to respect
I-
you. I do. I call you Madam Chair, and I'm very respectful of you.
And I feel
And
like,
I think that we need to be clear on these things, because like I said, I had someone tell me the other day, they watch every
I know,
meeting.
we have a lot of people.
We
watching.
do, and they're not in my district, they're in yours.
I know.
And so it's important that we actually do things that show them that we are respectful of them, we're respectful of ourselves. And the reason why it was important is that we need to make sure that we reflect what they want us to reflect. We want them to be in decency and order. We want to be in decency and order. I didn't want to belabor it. I never thought it would have been, but it's clear that everybody else feels that that's what we said, whether we agreed with it or not, that's what passed. And I'm just saying,
Okay.
and you know what? I don't mind, because what if they put and in there? When they come back with the document, I don't mind. But I think at the end of this meeting, the intent, it should be that you need to go ahead before somebody, this is my suggestion, before we leave, and go ahead and select someone that has the time to go to the next meeting. So it won't be a surprise. It won't be somebody getting a call and people be in decency and order, and not putting anyone in a situation where you might have to be there by yourself, because you never know. So that would be my suggestion. But, and after this, I'm done with the conversation for this evening.
Madam Chair, I have a question. So the motion was passed and voted on, see, because I thought we was waiting on them to put it,
In the work.
if
verbiage.
I'm swear, I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Mm-mm.
So it's, because I know last meeting, they just said again, Reverend Brown, can we wait till the next one until they have it together? So we passed it, but it's still not together in verbiage.
It's passed, meaning that's what we're supposed to be operating
ma'am.
off of,
Yes, ma'am.
but it was not placed. That was what we were trying to, the conversation was, where in the bylaws, does that document live?
Right.
And that's what we were waiting on him to find out where it lived.
So it's a live, like, say,
Yeah.
like the protocol
Right.
is one of our protocols we have to
Right.
follow, but we just don't know where we're placing it at.
Right.
Okay. just
But I
wanna be on the
understand
same
what you're
point.
saying. I can
just wanna
see
make
that.
sure.
I can see that. I can absolutely see that, Ms.
Okay.
Foster.
So it's been passed.
And Madam Chair, what happened was there were 3 things on the list. We passed the third one. The
Correct.
only verbiage we're waiting for is number 1 and 2, but 3 passed. The only verbiage we're waiting for the lawyer is about 1 and 2. There were 3 things on the list,
Mhm.
and we dealt with the last one first. And like you said, it could not be both the chair and the vice chair, but if the vice chair called a meeting, then, no, Senator Dr. Thing, then the chair could not be there. It would be another board member other than the chair. And like you said, if she is meeting with Dr. Thing, it couldn't be you, but any one of us. And that's how it was stated.
Mhm.
I don't know what the minutes are gonna say, and we took a vote. It was clarified that night, the verbiage was.
Mhm.
But there are 2 other things on the list we waiting on verbiage for, not the third one, but
Gotcha.
first and second.
So Reverend Brown, so anytime, not, because I thought it was just referring to the agenda meeting. So anytime they meet, chair, the vice chair, whoever, vice chair or the vice chair, chairman or the vice chair, no matter who it is, meets with Dr. Bethea, this is gonna be our protocol from now on. Anytime they meet, not just for agenda.
I thought it was a regular board meeting. It's not the regular board meeting?
So,
No, I just thought that was for the
Oh.
agenda when they made that one.
Okay.
That's why I said we need more clarification on it. Because you're saying every time we meet with Dr. Bethea, we have to have somebody present.
This is outside of a
That's what I
board
want to
meeting.
know.
yeah.
This is outside of a board meeting.
Right.
And I think it also said, how many times, for an example, she would meet with Dr. Thing, give her 24-hour notice. It was very specific,
Yes, ma'am.
so that she wouldn't be meeting every day. See what I'm saying? So Dr. Bethea could do her work. But she would notify Dr. Bethea 24 hours in advance, and they would meet at least twice a month. It was very detailed. Now, I don't know how the secretary recorded it. I don't know if it's on the tape recorder, but we clarified the wording that night before the vote.
Yes, ma'am. That's fine. I just want to make sure I'm on point. I'm so sorry
Oh,
Okay.
you're fine.
for,
You're fine.
for going outside of the board.
Let's get a copy of what was recorded.
Let's go ahead and put it in place that the next agenda is set by 2 people. Either it's the vice chair or the chair together or whatever.
You can't be
That's
us
what I
together.
understand is gonna happen. Am I right?
No, you can't have the vice chair and the chair at the same time. That's what they're trying to do to point of order. We got one of y'all have to say who's gonna be there outside of me.
All the time she can be that vice chair, because chair is not
Makes
there.
sense.
Yeah, it's gotta be somebody other than the vice chair.
I'm misunderstanding.
Yeah,
I think that we don't have clarity on this motion until we see what was said. So I'll go, Dr. Bethea, if we can go back to the last, or Ms. Giles, can we go back to the last, minutes and then listen, and I'll talk to you about listening to the last recording so we can hear exactly the verbiage that was used for that motion.
Madam Chair, but I kind of agree with Ms. White. We do need to know because the next meeting is gonna come up and you have to have somebody who's gonna volunteer to be there. That way, we're still trying to follow protocol. Even still, we have to have somebody say, I'll go this time and next time I'll go. Cause I think that night we sat around here, nobody was volunteering to be there every meeting.
Yeah,
I didn't hear anything being
That's true.
asked, but that's fine. I'm not questioning any of that.
May,
May do.
But you'll meet like the second week in May because we have our meeting the third week, so you'll have to meet before our meeting.
all right, let's move forward, please. We're moving to number 6, reports from administration, review and action items.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
we didn't approve the agenda.
Oh, okay, pardon me. I thought we did. We didn't vote.
we didn't
No.
vote.
We didn't vote, pardon. All those in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the ayes carry. Thank you, Ms. White. Number 6, reports from administration, review and action items. And We're turning this over now to Dr. Bethay.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam Chair Board. At this time, we do have Ms. Angel Cooper will come up and provide an overview as we're in the budget planning process. As you're aware, we will do an official public notice in May and then a first read in May, but this is just give you an overview of information that she has as of right now, and she's working on developing the budget.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Board, Dr. Bethay.
Good evening.
Okay, it worked a while ago when Kevin did it. Point to the computer.
I think moving on the side, it's just moving on the.
Still not doing it. I need to move the podium over there.
You go ahead and advance it in school dates. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have it now. Just put the mission statement. We want to make sure we have that out for everything we put out there. So Marion County School District prepares young people to choose the future they dream about, whatever that dream may be. We are a learning organization that's constantly seeking ways to make its workplace and learning environment better for adults and students throughout the county. Through dynamic partnerships with students, families, and the community, we harness the power of our collective assets to inspire innovation through collaboration. This is based on the House projections. We supposed to get the Senate ones this week, but this is the House. The strategy is to fund classrooms based on a statewide average student-teacher ratio and increase our salaries to be more competitive. The cost of a teacher, the way they figure it, is the state minimum salary of master's degree, 12 years of experience, and the fringe. With the state minimum teacher salary, they're increasing it by 2,500. The cost would be 55,104 plus the 17,335 fringe, which is your retirement and Social Security and Medicare, equals 72,439. The state share funding is 75% and local share is at 25%. Currently, our formula for Marion Falls, it's 85% for state and 15% for local. The district receives its share of state funds based upon weighted pupil units and district's ability to pay, index of taxpaying ability calculated by the Department of Revenue. Any questions on that slide?
Don't expect that to change.
This is where they changed it from last year, the new formula. They're still kind of trying to tweak it.
Okay.
I do know at my meeting yesterday, they said for the 2,500 per sale, it looks like that's going to pass 100%. Okay, on the next slide, we have our revenues. I grouped it as local, state, and transfers. The two state ones are based on the state projections, and that's based off mills of 180. And on the next slides, I'll give a little bit more breakdown for the revenues. The local revenue is from county taxes, the ad valorem taxes, delinquent tax and ad valorem vehicles. The delinquent tax is based off of 7%, since our collection rate averages 93%. The provisio is when another,
Mhm.
I don't know what ad valorem taxes are.
that is the taxes for property.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I used to be the same way.
I still am.
The provisio, may not be familiar with that. That is when another district has to pay us a certain amount if we are the hosting school for a student that may be here temporarily.
Will you repeat that, please?
The provisio is when another district has to pay us a certain amount if we are the hosting school for a student. It's usually temporarily coming from another district.
Madam Chair, just to explain, if you have a student that DSS could have placed or in a facility, something therapeutic, and that happens across districts.
The rentals for 15,000 is from PD Head Start and any miscellaneous rentals. The apartments, of course, is our 3 that are 500 a month. And the miscellaneous revenue is rebates we have from our virtual cards, recycling, transcripts, et cetera, and things like that. On the next slide, this is the education funding, the retiree fringe and the state aid to classroom is again based on those projections. The bus driver allocation is an estimate. This is based on routes. We should get that. And sometimes in June, end of June, they said they can't get that until they actually know how many routes and what's going to be taking place. Homestead and other remaining taxes is based off a comparison of 5 years. The PIBA credit is for the advanced insurance payment each year that is refunded in June of the following. And then the SDAC is the Medicaid report we do quarterly, and that's estimate over 5 years.
People pays us back when, you said in the what?
We have to pay it ahead of time,
Right.
like for June,
Mm-hmm.
for the next year, and then in the following June, they refund it back to us.
Funding the phone. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that slide?
Have they, Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
have they, made any has there been any conversations about any increases in the insurances? Or?
I've got that in here for the health insurance. Is that
Yeah.
what you're? Yes, ma'am. On the next one, this is indirect cost, and this is just based off a formula given to us by the state each year. The Title I and IDA has to be in the plan, and the food service is depending on how much they make, and then you can take a certain percentage. On the next slide, we have our salary study and competitive edge adjustments. Phase 1. Our lower salary schedules, we increased the base by 5%. This included instructional aides, custodians, maintenance, LPNs, and secretary scales. All other scales, we increased the base by 2%. The salary schedules were adjusted for the following: administrative schedules, school bookkeeper schedules, maintenance supervisor schedule, career development facilitator schedule, and the nurse schedules. Any questions on that?
Ms. Cooper, that was the 5 that went up. I guess that was the lowest paid 5.
We
That's
chose the
ones-
lowest ones,
That's it. Those the ones that we were looking for. Okay,
just as a phase 1.
okay, gotcha. Thank you.
On the next slide, teacher pay, we've already discussed 2,500 per sale. So that will make the starting salary 42,500 for the state. Our starting salary would be 43,350 because we have the 850 local supplement that we are still including. The bus driver is 25% increase on state minimum schedule. We are above that rate, but we're still required to change ours based on what the 25% is on theirs. And it will make ours $13.67 an hour starting for the bus drivers. And it was $11.93, I believe. We have included an admin and classified step increases, 1 step increase on top of the change in the basis. Health insurance, 3.7% increase effective January 1st. So it's a lot better than the 18% from last year. State retirement increase of 1%. And the teacher supply is increasing from 300 to 350.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
In North Carolina, I hope it doesn't come to South Carolina, Blue Cross and Blue Shield is getting ready to raise the cost of health insurance. You think that might spill over?
This is set that they've already set this. So for at least for the
Coming
next
year.
year, they're only doing that 3.7 and there's no more cost to the employee.
Okay.
The state is putting some money
Set for
in.
this year, for next year. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
The information that you gave us already, you're just showing us that this increase is in this. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The next slide. This is the preliminary for the expenditures. The salaries have increased 1.730420, fringe 902,564. Admin and support is down 98,828. The board expenses is down 32,192. Operations is up 24,425. Pupil services 16,630. And again, these are estimates based on what we know so far with our revenue. And then a balanced budget with total expenditures at 2,509,759 for the difference.
Pupil services are down, right? I mean, that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Ms. Cooper, Madam Chair, Ms. Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that we can get, I know that we've been, I think, requesting for the board expenses. Is there a way to get a breakdown of that? Like,
That is most of the salary study that we won't need for next year. That was 28,000 of it.
No, she's asking, can they get, I think we have given
Yeah,
that to
I
the
can-
board, but we can print that again. They want a detail of the board break.
the
Yes.
board breakdown of like our expenditures, like 300 some thousand a year. I just want to see.
That's professional services.
And that also comes with.
That
our,
does
our-
legal.
That's all your
Lawyer.
professional service, the attorney, the auditor.
All that comes up
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
Okay.
But
I don't think we
still
ever
like,
had a
You
breakdown.
was
of-
wondering where your share was?
Now, we provided it. We can provide again, but we have provided that to the board
Right.
before this year.
This year, we had it this year. I go back. That's a lot of money to say we.
That's what it is. It's professional service.
Professional service.
And hopefully
And
we'll
that's
cut
a-
some of that.
That's a good point, Madam Chair. Will we have, well, the bond attorneys, is that in there too?
No, bond attorneys, if I'm correct, they get paid in their work. Like
They
when
come out the bond.
process Something almost.
So it's not in our
No.
expenses?
That
Okay,
you do see,
Okay.
your auditor, your,
Mhm.
attorney, you do see those.
right, okay.
okay.
Dental thing.
Ms. Cooper, I have a question. Under pupil services, is that your IDEA?
No, ma'am, that is where it's for the schools. Like, we give them so much that they can use for revenues they don't get, like the athletics that don't get a lot of revenue in, like
Okay, so.
baseball and all that. You may give them, we give them so much for school. Plus, this has the transportation in there for going to games or going to field trips with activity bus. So I
all these-
reduced that sum right now. We may go back, but because we get money back from the schools when they use the activity bus.
Okay. So, as far as like materials, teacher materials, curriculum needs, which one of these?
That would go under the admin and support.
Okay,
And Ms. Cooper, I heard you, the last slide, you said that teachers are being reimbursed instead of 300 is 350. What about the supportive staff, the non-certified teachers? Because I remember.
We talked about that before.
Okay.
And that can be at the discretion of the board. The state will only give to the certified. And so if we can have a discussion, what the board's pleasure for those that are seeking certification, actively seeking certification, meaning that you're doing your part, you're taking the practice when you should, you're meeting our requirements, because we do have sometimes people that don't meet the requirements. If there's a desire, I think that came up last year, to
Yes,
give
ma'am.
them something if they are holding a classroom.
Because Dr. Buffet, there's a responsibility to fix up the classroom, so it's a school expense. And they
Would you
would,
like for us to make a recommendation on what amount? First, let's see how many we have and then make a recommendation. By the time we do the first reading of the budget, to kind of have a ballpark figure.
yes,
I
ma'am.
think so.
Yeah.
Something.
We can
think it would
Is
be-
this, when I was teaching, we got this money for, like, we spent on our classroom.
Yeah.
We had to turn in receipts and that kind of thing. I don't know if you still have to do that or not, but so are the teachers' aides, are they supposed to spend their money on the
That's
classroom?
what
No,
we
I
did.
think she's talking about if you have someone, like we have some teachers that do not have their certification, they may be in a program to get their certification. Well, the state,
Okay.
if you're in a state program, you get it. Is that right, Ms. Grant? If you have your statement of eligibility from the state, even if you're not certified, you get it. These are people who do not have the eligibility certification from the state, but they are supposed to be working on their credentials. Then those are the ones that I think the board is asking about.
Are they still required to give receipts for what they buy?
No,
don't
after
think
we
they are.
discussed it with the
Mm-mm.
auditor, as long as they sign that, we have a form that they have to sign when they pick up that money. That's them saying they're going to use it on school, and then it falls on them if they don't use it for that.
I just feel like no matter if it's for the classrooms, for the children, we should have to give it back. Unless you just think they have it, like, I think we should.
And they have supply lines for each
Right,
area.
Now,
long as the
we're
children's
talking
gonna
about
use
the required, that used to be a state requirement.
Right, right.
That you get receipts, and then the state changed their requirement that
Right.
you don't have to.
no, I'm not saying
Oh, yeah.
the required of the receipts. I'm saying if the non-certified teacher who's gonna fix up a classroom for the children, spend any type of money to do it, there should be a budget for her or him to do their classroom, just like a certified teacher.
Well, everyone within their school instructional budget, I guess we're talking about two different things. Everyone gets instructional funds. So whether you are certified or not, you're able to get the materials for your classroom. But the question is, like, whether it's through Title I or your general fund.
Yes,
If I'm Mrs. K and I'm not certified, you can go to your principal and you can order whatever paper you want, whatever manipulatives or whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
But this is coming from the state in addition to that. So
Right.
everybody's gonna get from the school. So the question is, do you all want to give the additional? Cause I
Yes,
want you to
ma'am.
think they don't get anything, they do.
Right.
but-
No,
but it's a
additional would be
question.
good because
Okay.
have you seen, sometimes when we go on our boardwalks, you can see different classrooms and house fixed up.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have more of a budget to fix up, I think they would.
Not necessarily.
It's in the personality of the person.
I get it.
They're artistic and
Yeah.
design.
And how many years they've been there. That has a
Yeah.
lot to do with it.
But we
too.
can look at how many staff members fall in the category of holding a classroom, but not holding certification, and then make a recommendation to you.
Thank you.
But from an example, my wife being a teacher, she always spent more than she got.
Mm.
I'll go ahead and tell you that, so.
And they can take off so much, I don't know, because I'm not a tax attorney, but they can take off so much on their taxes also. It's not a lot, but it is
I
something.
think it's like $500
Yeah.
is what I can write off. That might be more now, I don't know. But it might be something worth finding out so teachers can understand that when they do fill out their taxes. Do we have any other questions? And Ms.
But I'm not
Cooper?
against giving them.
That's it. We will have the preliminary on May 16th. We have our next board meeting. We'll have the public hearing at 5 before that. And then we're on track to have the final budget presentation on June 13th.
Sounds good.
Ms. Cooper, could you just walk us through your process of how you formulate all of this and what time frame that you start? One of my questions, do directors kind of give you their wish list? Or
When
are
we
they
have our
saying,
meetings-
this is all the money you get and good luck with it?
When we have our meetings with Dr. Bethay and the directors, they come to the table with a form and all telling us what they would like to have, what's a need, what's a want. Then when we do our revenues, the state projections was a new formula. We kind of have to wait and see what they give us because nobody in our meeting yesterday, nobody can determine how they're calculating it per se right now. But the taxes and all, I started in February taking those out because it's just by taking what we have, the different formulas, calculating that. Then I take a comparison. There's a budget report comparison for 5 years. And that's a lot of going through that and seeing what they've spent, because they may tell you they want 10,000, but they've only spent 2,000 looking at those type things. And then depending on the budget, if you've got more expenses that you can do, or if you have less, you try to do what they've asked for, but you can't always do all of it. But the main thing is they go over it when we have those meetings in February.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
there's something I've been asking since the first day I walked in, probably. The matter of the process, not here, but in the schools. Because I heard at the art field, or whatever it's called, art walk. Someone, I think, wanted me to hear that they don't get, like, there was something with some instruments or something.
Okay.
So
and
how
just
does
to
that
kinda-
person make sure that they're given opportunity to replace broken equipment and stuff?
It is a well-defined, I know that Ms. Cooper just said we sit and meet. Official memo goes out to every senior cabinet member. Everyone has a defined time. Olga Rita White, Tuesday, the 13th at 9 o'clock. You have a form. You have to do your classes. We look at your ratio to teachers. We look at your facilities needs, and it's broken down. Your facilities needs, then you have to prioritize. We look at any academic needs. I need another teacher. I would like to start another program. I want a dance teacher instead of music. We look at any federal program needs on a form, on a form. So when they come to the table, the expectation is that principals have met with their teams to have a full scope of the needs of their schools. If you have a toilet broken on hall B, it should be listed on there. But again, everything has to be prioritized because of, unfortunately, sometimes the needs and the wants are tremendous. And so the reason we have them prioritized so that we can, you may not necessarily get number 6 on your list, but we may make it up to number 3 on your list this year because we still have 12 other locations or other locations. But all schools are supposed to gather the needs through their ILT. Every school has an instructional leadership team that has to meet each week, and we have dashboards to document their meetings, and they're supposed to get feedback from their team. So if there was an art need, then that should have been on there on the programmatic week.
Okay.
So if there's a concern where principals aren't bringing everything to the table, then we can address that. But it is not just you come and sit and just talk. It is you get a document.
So if I was principal A and you came to me as the superintendent and you say, let me see where you met with your people. Or can you tell, or, could I tell my people, just when you start talking, listen, we don't have no money, don't even ask. Can we do that?
No, because you just
Okay.
never know what special pots that come available.
Okay.
So we tell our leaders, you put everything you want and desire on that list, because there are just times where funding comes that you don't even know that was coming.
Right.
And therefore, you rather have a list and your desires out there instead of scrambling once you get additional funding. For instance, we're about to hopefully tell the board about a partnership with Sapaco. Well, that's a funding source that we didn't plan for.
Right.
But if you have something on your list that can fall under that umbrella, or the
Mhm.
Healthcare Foundation, we're working on something with the Healthcare Foundation that we're gonna come back and tell the board about as well in more detail. And so that may generate a lot of money.
Right.
And so we may be able now to go to number 4 on your list, but if you didn't list the number 4, then you don't get it, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
makes sense to
Yeah.
me. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any more questions? No? So this is, our public hearing, and then, we'll have in May 16th and then June. So that's our timeline at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
So y'all study this. If you have any more questions, I know that we can submit those to Ms. Cooper ahead of time, so she's prepared if you have anything else that you would like to ask. Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. All right, we're gonna move now into.
Madam Chair, I'm
Yes, ma'am.
sorry, I promise I'm not gonna talk.
No, it's fine.
The line item for the money that we may or may not still have from the school sales, did we spend all the money in that line item?
We can check on it.
Okay,
Like from Britain's Neck.
Not
Britain's
Britain's
Neck,
Neck.
RCE.
right,
RCE. We can check on that.
okay.
It's
That was good. That was good. That's good.
Mhm.
Good evening, Ms. Grant. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. We are asking for executive session to consider personnel actions this evening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if we'll now move to, Dr. Bethay, the field trip request.
in your packets. We first want to thank the board for allowing us to add these field trip requests, because it is always our goal to let our children have these experiences. We do have 3 additional trips to Carowinds that we're asking for. One, a STEAM trip, which are science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Also the Marion High School JAG, attending the STEM day, as well as, for our Saturday school students. One of the incentives, that we talked about to encourage attendance and to promote the growth, doing a trip for those particular, students. And that has gone extremely well, I will say. And so we're looking to see how can we continue that. But we are requesting those trips to be approved that are coming up in May. And you have all of the information in your packets.
I know everybody has probably needs a little bit of time to look at these. You have any questions?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I am highly impressed.
Right.
Creek Bridge.
Mhm.
This is the kind of stuff I like to see. I never see about all the time.
Leaves no questions.
Can't be no-
Mhm.
Leaves no questions.
Goodness, I
It's
love it.
exactly right.
is, it is.
Is that a separate system from what everybody else, or to just use the system creatively?
Technology savvy.
Oh, I am not. I am not.
That was all the things.
Very helpful.
Dr. Bethay, you should probably like make that a template. It leaves no questions. We have nothing to say.
I'd like to I'd like to make a motion.
I second.
Would you, and you want to group all 3 together?
All 3 of them together and for approval to go on their trips.
And I will second.
All right, so we have a motion by Ms. White and properly second by Ms. Foxworth. Any discussion? With no discussion, we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the ayes carry this motion. And now if we will move into executive session for human resources personnel. We'll take a minute or 2 to clear out. So Do I have a motion to move from open session into executive session?
Madam Chair,
Reverend Brown, are you
She's so
giving me a
moved.
motion? Yes,
Yeah.
do we have a
I
second?
second.
Thank you, Ms. Foxworth. We have a motion, it's properly second. All those in favor of
Aye.
moving into executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And now we are in executive session. We'll take a minute to clear the room.
He said, no, I'm still using it.
We are now officially out of executive session. I need a motion to move from executive session into open session, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Reverend Brown. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. White. We have a motion properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. A statement that, as coming out, there were no actions were taken during executive session. So with that being said, board, do we have any motions or any further business for tonight?
I make a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that employee A4A with initials TC as represented in the personnel actions addendum for the April 27th, 2023 board meeting be reported to the South Carolina State Department of Education for breach of contract, and that the South Carolina State Department of Education take any appropriate action for failure to comply with contractual obligations.
So we have a motion by Ms. Pridgen. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you,
That was a
Ms. White.
mouthful.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, let's bring that to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have one opposed. That would be Ms. Foxworth. We do have one more motion. Do we have someone that will give a motion for the superintendent's recommendations for personnel actions for April 27th, 2023? We have a motion for that.
I so move.
Thank you, Ms. White. Do we have a second? Thank you, Mr. Dozier. We have a motion properly second.
That's not.
Any
the case.
discussion? With no discussion, may we bring this to a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the ayes carry. The last piece of information tonight is one more motion.
I motion that we adjourn.
Oh, we have one more thing?
Madam Chair,
ma'am.
respectfully, can you go ahead and ask somebody if they would go to that meeting?
Oh, for our next.
Yes,
meeting.
ma'am.
Okay, so, I spoke to Dr. Bethay. This is quick turnaround. She would like to meet tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Do I have anybody that can join for the agenda, May agenda tomorrow at 10 o'clock?
I'd love to, but I'm working.
But I can't.
You know, already in the meeting.
So-
You said
Yeah, we got a meeting.
Before you- That, question.
Yes.
Could we not make it so that I'm excluded? Like, what if I go to a meeting and just don't say anything? Can I not even attend a meeting? Like a agenda meeting, because the last time I was the very first one, so I had to figure out how our meeting went, because I ever had to go. So like,
Miss,
I can't go.
if you don't have anyone, for tomorrow, I know you won't be in town next week. Do you want to do virtual or phone or?
Can
Well-
somebody do it?
Well, I can't go, right?
No, you can, I mean, if you can't go next week, why can't she just go next week? It's nothing. All you're doing is sitting there and talking about the agenda. You'll bring everybody's items in. And that's all. I mean, you do. Right, it's not a big deal. I mean, all you got, so, I mean, if you can't go, why she can't go? She can go to the meeting.
Okay, well, can anybody do tomorrow at 10 o'clock? I'm gonna leave it at that.
May I ask you something?
Yes, ma'am.
You knew I was in an accident in Columbia and my chiropractor appointment is at 10. Could you change that time to 11?
We have a celebration for our office professionals tomorrow at that time. Our
At
district
10?
Yes, ma'am.
At
at
11.
So, I mean,
So, I mean, just keep the regular schedule, Ms. Atkinson. She can do it. Just let Nadine go in there. Yeah, no, not tomorrow, next week.
And then we'll figure out a time that you can do and then get another person to go in with you.
Yeah, go next week and somebody can, and who can go next week?
Oh, that's next week.
Yeah, next week. Usually it's next week. Tuesday, right?
We
Tuesday.
normally try to do it on
Tuesday,
two
my daughter's grad-
Tuesdays before,
Yeah.
so you're gonna be gone.
Okay, Wednesday, Thursday?
Wednesday,
Oh, no, Thursday, I'm in the state.
I can do Thursday afternoon.
Thursday afternoon?
Mhm.
Thursday will be.
That's the first Thursday of the month. I'm state superintendent's meeting.
Yeah, Thursday will be the fourth.
Can you do this Friday?
I can do next Friday.
Friday.
Okay, next Friday. Who would like to join me next Friday? What time, Dr. Bethea?
Thursday is,
I mean, I don't care.
Thursday is the fourth.
I'm not sure what Tim start.
Would you let me know tomorrow and then I'll reach out to anybody that can join me next Friday whenever, because I have to work with what's convenient with her, not what's convenient.
I just have a commitment at 1 o'clock.
Okay, do you want to do that morning
Okay, that works.
at 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock, Ms. Scott.
Okay. I'll send that, guys, I'll send it out and you can look at your calendars and let me know. I'll do that tomorrow. First come, first serve.
Chair, I just.
I don't care.
Yeah.
You need to go.
Send it out.
Tomorrow.
So we might have to, is there a way that we can evaluate the situation? Because I have the time, but I am not the person that can go. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't keep postponing the meetings because it's not working with their schedule. We have to figure out how we're gonna have the agenda meeting to make it feasible for everyone. So maybe-
I don't have a problem. You talking to the wrong person.
No, I'm just thinking that.
Mm, mhm.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
we'll go
ma'am.
ahead and put together a skeleton based on the notes we already have.
Yeah, I've got
and then
that
we'll
too.
Kind
Okay.
of go from there.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay.
Okay.
Again, with that, any other discussion before we close tonight?
Have a discussion, Madam Chair. If you leave out of this meeting and we have to have the meeting before the May meeting, and you don't know what day you're gonna really have.
We do. We have a Friday.
But you don't know if you have anybody who's gonna be there.
I'll send it out in a minute. And then if nobody can do that Friday at 9 o'clock, then Dr. Bethea will give me another date and time and I'll send that out.
Well, I mean, if nobody can do it, then just
Let's
go
and
ahead.
do it.
Let her do
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I
If
mean-
Nobody don't respond, then yeah. let's go ahead and
Right.
do the meeting. We don't postpone, yeah.
See, it's not a personal thing I didn't get, but just, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm.
So it's on that day. Whatever.
All right.
Okay. Well, if everybody feels comfortable, I promise you we'll do it and we'll get all of this straightened out and worked out so that it works well. It's not about me, it's about being able to serve Dr. Bethea in a timely manner. With that, do we have any more business?
Madam Chair, motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I
Right, do
second
have
it.
a second.
We all do.
Ms. Pridgeon, thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Foxworth, properly seconded by Ms. Pridgeon. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the ayes carry it, and thank you all for a good evening.